Good evening and welcome to the City of Battle Creek, Michigan. And this is the Battle Creek City Commission meeting for March 15th, 2022. It is 7 p.m. We're going to have a moment of silence for our invocation, and then we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Carla Reynolds. I'll ask that if you're able to stand, please stand for our moment of silence, and then we'll have our pledge by Commissioner Carla Reynolds. Commissioner Reynolds.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Reynolds. Next item on our agenda is the roll call. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Commissioner Blood.
Present.
Vice Mayor Ferris.
Present.
Commissioner Herring. Commissioner Lance.
Here.
Mayor Banky.
Here.
Commissioner Morris. Commissioner Reynolds.
Present.
Commissioner Sophia.
Here.
And Commissioner Zenda Wilson.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here, all commissioners. Next item on our agenda is a proclamation and an award for Older Americans Act Nutrition Program Month. I'm happy to present this tonight and wanted to see if we have anyone from the organization here. Please come forward, and I'll get a microphone and I'll meet you down there.
Do we have a mic?
What happened? Oh, I'm sorry. This isn't good.
Very impressed with this proclamation. Out of all the years that we have been presenting proclamations, I do not remember one for this organization, and there's a lot of good information here. And I know that the organization reached out and wondered if I would be able to help distribute meals one day. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, but still, I think we need to thank your organization for the work you do throughout, just not Calhoun County, but throughout the United States, to really reach out and work with people that are not as able to create and make their own meals. And I think this is a great community resource. I know a lot of people that volunteer, and we just want to thank them. And as we read this proclamation, I hope that they understand we appreciate everything they do. Whereas 50 years ago, on March 22nd, 1972, President Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 to include a national nutrition program for individuals 60 years and older. For 5 decades, this landmark law has helped to fund community-based organizations like Meals on Wheels, and it is still the only federal program designed specifically to meet the nutritional and social needs of older adults. And whereas this year, Meals on Wheels program from across the country are joining together for their March for Meals awareness campaign to celebrate 50 years of success and garner the support needed to ensure these critical programs can continue to address the food insecurity and malnutrition, combat social isolation, enable independence, and improve health for years to come. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in the city of Battle Creek has served our communities very well for over 50 years, the volunteers are the backbone of the program and have not only delivered nutritious meals to seniors and individuals with disabilities who are at a significant risk of hunger and isolation, but also caring, concern, and attention to their welfare. They provide a powerful opportunity for social connection for millions of seniors to help combat the negative health effects and economic consequences of loneliness and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Battle Creek deserve recognition for the heroic contributions, and essential services they provide amid the COVID-19 pandemic and will continue to provide to local communities, our state, and our nation long after it is over. And whereas the senior population is increasing substantially, and action is needed now to support local Meals on Wheels programs through federal, state, and local funding, volunteering, donations, and raising awareness to ensure that these vital services can continue to be delivered for another 50 years. Therefore, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Battle Creek, we do hereby proclaim the month of March 2022 as Older Americans Act Nutrition Program Month in the greater Battle Creek area, and we urge every community member to take this month to honor our Meals on Wheels program, the seniors they serve, and the volunteers who care for them. Well, I want to say thank you very much for just coming down and really bringing the awareness of this program together. I'd like to ask you to say just a couple words, if you don't mind. Maybe you can mention some of the people that really spearhead the program here. I know that we partner with Kalamazoo County on this, so we appreciate that partnership too.
My name is Taylor. I am the Nutrition Programs Manager for Milestone Senior Services, formerly known as Senior Services Incorporated, but we rebranded this past October. So we serve meals all over Kalamazoo County and Calhoun County. And right now I'm trying to do a lot of outreach in Calhoun County to start really reaching the rural areas like Teconcha, Athens, Homer, just to really increase those numbers and make sure that those in need are aware of these programs and know how to either make a referral or their loved ones know how to make a referral on behalf for them. Myself, I have supervisors, Mark Barber, Amber Wetherill in Kalamazoo and Calhoun County. Without them and my other teammates, we would not be able to do what we do. And like the proclamation said, we are nothing without our volunteers. So if you ever have some time during your morning and would like to volunteer, we serve meals Monday through Friday. Usually the volunteer time is around 10:15 to 12:30. And if you want to do it in Calhoun County, it's right at the Cool Family Center. And you can go on our website and fill out a volunteer application there. So thank you for your time and this wonderful acknowledgement for all that hard work. Not only we do as staff members, but the volunteers as well. March for Meals really wants to bring awareness not only to the Meals on Wheels program, but for all the wonderful volunteers that donate their time to help.
Next item on our agenda is a presentation, and I'll call upon our city manager, Ted Deering, to make an announcement.
Thank you, Mayor, and I will quickly turn the microphone over to our Revenue Services Director, Lyndon Morrison, who is going to present our interim financials through January 31st of this year.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners, for this opportunity to talk with you about 7 months ending financial statements through January 31st, 2022. I am twofold happy to be here in front of you today. This feels like the first time in a very long time that we've been present face-to-face, so it's nice to see everyone again and for me to be able to stand in front of you and talk about what I think is some pretty good news for these 7 months financial statements. I'll share with you some good news about the income tax revenues, and Vicki Camerood, our income tax administrator, is going to give you some insight into our income tax department here in City Hall, even if we are all kind of puzzled about the good news about the income tax revenues for these 7 months. The PDF of my report is attached to the agenda, and everyone will be able to see that on the city's website this week in the budget section of the financial statements. This status report really is general fund focused. It does have some graphs for the major and local streets as well as water and sewer funds. My message is consistent. Don't get too excited about that bottom line. If you like most financial statement readers, go right to the bottom line and say, whoa, we've got $6.3 million of revenues over expenditures. As I've said many times before, property tax is billed and recorded in the first 2 quarters of the fiscal year. That makes that bottom line look pretty good. So as we continue throughout the year, we spend that down, but that is compared to that 6.3 million revenues over expenditures, compared to 8.1 million for the prior year. But we talked 100 times, probably you're sick of hearing me say, about the one-time revenues that we received last year, those CARES funds. That's what makes up the big difference between last year and this year. But the first item on the financial statement themselves shows city income tax revenue for the current year, the actual amount for these 7 months, $9,575,853. This is an 18.6% increase from the prior year, primarily due to corporate income taxes that have rebounded from the prior year, as shown in the table that's in the narrative section of my report. But it is also 69.3% of the current year budget. Police services revenue also is substantially up from the prior year. It's at 60.4%, partially due to the timing of some billings, as well as reduced services, as we knew what happened, last year, and the impacts of COVID harder last year than this. The prior year intergovernmental, as I mentioned, that's a total of $3.4 million. $2.4 million of that is the CARES money that was the one-time revenue. Which is the largest contributor to the change from prior year. We're happy, all of us, to see recreation revenues rebounding. They're 69% higher than the prior year, with a corresponding 33% higher in expenditures due to things progressing back to some normalcy for the recreation department. Please know we are watching fuel costs across the organization. These financial statements were really before that volatility started to hit our financial statements, but we are watching for those departments that are heavy in the fuel usage sections like transit, police, DPW. Does anyone have questions?
Questions of our finance director?
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ted?
Thank you, Mayor. And then tonight we have, as Linda indicated, our income tax administrator, Vicki Cameroot, is with us to do a presentation on her division of revenue services. I don't think we've had a chance to do this one for a while, so we're pleased to have Vicki here this evening.
Hi, thank you, Ted. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So ways that you can file your tax return with the city department. We have paper, we have electronic filing through our city website. And I did put our website up on that. Our tax department will do the city tax return for free. And we would suggest that you do make an appointment with our department, as we are limited staffing right now. And when you do that, if you would bring in your federal page 1, W-2s, 1099s, and any forms that would, that you need to complete that tax return, such as W-2s, 1099s, Schedule Cs, Schedule B, which is your interest, dividend, stocks, or bonds, Schedule E, which is your rental income, and any other schedules that would be needed to do your tax returns. Staffing and revenue. As of March 22, there is myself, the income tax administrator. I have 2 auditors, a clerk, and I have a temporary clerk, which she's seasonal. And the income tax for 2020, we have processed 25,293 tax returns. Of that, we have 740 corporate tax returns, 24,553 individual partnerships and trust returns. For the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021, refunds processed were $2,126,906. Of that total net income revenue, the fiscal year ending for June of 21 was $15,367,014. Donations for tax years. On our tax return, we have donations. And for that, we have United Way, we have Other, which is any nonprofit organization. And those have to be, nonprofit, and they have to put on there, on the tax return, they have to put the nonprofit organization that is their federal EIN number, their address, so that we can make sure that those donations get to the city. And for the city, those are cemetery flags and the Parks Department. So for tax year 2018 and 2020, the United Way was $3,464, and Other was $238. The City of Battle Creek, we collected $4,278. So what we have new for the City of Battle Creek, the deadline this year is going to be May 2nd, because the holiday, or the April 30th actually falls on a weekend. So a reminder for the non-residents, if you're allocating your wages, a letter from your employer must be attached to your tax return for the wage allocation. Otherwise, it's hard for us to process the tax return. And they also have a COVID form for the non-residents, which has been in the booklet since last year. And that also needs to be attached. Without those, we cannot process the tax return. And as a reminder, we also want to let people know that on line 31 of the tax return, there's different ways that you can make payments to your tax return, and you can also make a direct deposit. So those are just different options that you can do. And you want to, the forms are also available on our website, and I've put up there on the screen where you can find our forms. All forms are up there, and a lot of them are PDF and fillable now. There's a few of them that are still not fillable, but we're working on that. And we also wanted to make sure that everybody's aware that if you owe over $100 to the city, that you are required to make estimated taxes. So I've put like a little questionnaire in here that you could go through and answer the questions to know whether you're able to or required to make tax payments. So basically, bottom line, if you owe $100, you are required to pay taxes. So what we try to tell people is, you know how you owe if you owe $100 or more, then you are really required to pay those taxes. And we tell them, if you, you know how you have the federal and the state withheld from your paycheck. Well, it becomes your responsibility to do that. So we tell them to take the prior year taxes and divide that by 4. And that just makes it simpler for them to do. And, we're always willing to help them try to figure that out. And then we, we'll help them do the coupons, get them ready. And we always tell them to print those out, or we'll help them fill them out, and then we'll tell them to staple them to their calendar to help to remind them for every quarter. Is there any questions for me?
Any questions for Vicki? Yes, Commissioner Blood.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and reminding us all about our city income tax that is coming up. I have utilized your system in person. When I first moved here, I came in with all my papers, and your office was so gracious to help me file my taxes, didn't charge me anything, which is definitely unique for the city. And then last year, I was able to utilize the online system to file. And I think it was amazing that you guys have made that progress to get to the point where we can file online. And so thank you for coming out and just reminding us that taxes are coming and due and walking us through this. I know it can be daunting sometimes to get up and present, but you did a nice job. So just thank you. Thank you to your office. That's a lot of returns to process through, especially with such a small crew. And I appreciate all the work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments or questions of Vicki? Thank you very much. We appreciate your information that you shared.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is Chair noting any added or deleted resolutions.
Resolution 345 was added.
All right, next item is petitions, communications, and reports.
There were none.
Thank you very much. Next item is our public hearing.
This public hearing is for the purpose of receiving public comment on a proposed gateway treatment to the Capitol Avenue Southwest Bridge of Interstate 94.
Declare the public hearing open. Are there any public comments about this public hearing? Is there anyone here who would like to make a public comment? Are there any commission comments? I declare the public hearing closed. Next item on our agenda is the introduction of ordinance. Madam Clerk?
This introduction is for a proposed ordinance to rezone 421/425 Northeast Capitol Avenue and 427/429 Northeast Capitol Avenue from R1B Single Family Residential District to T3 Neighborhood Commercial District. The parcels are flanked to the east and west along Northeast Capitol Avenue by parcel zone T-3 Neighborhood Commercial District. Past zoning maps show that these properties have historically been commercially zoned since the city adopted a zoning ordinance in 1924. It is the opinion of the city's planning staff that the two subject properties were intended to be zoned T-3 Neighborhood Commercial during the 2020 recodification of the zoning ordinance and zoning map. A T3 designation would be consistent with the immediately adjacent properties, the historical zoning designation of these properties, and the existence of the commercially designed and occupied structure located at 421 and 425 Northeast Capitol Avenue.
I move for the approval of Resolution 06-2022.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to introduce ordinance 06-2022. Are there any public comments at this time? Are there any public comments? Seeing none, are there any commission comments? Commissioner Blood.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to lift up the planning division and say thank you. I know this is a hard task. Well, in my mind, I believe it to be a hard task to go through all of these maps and find the minutia of where something isn't right or where something's off. And it takes a lot of time and effort and knowledge. And so I appreciate that and bringing this to us and just keeping us on a path that seems a little bit more sensible and sometimes with these lines. So thank you to the planning department for that.
And thank you, Commissioner Blood. Are there any other commission comments at this time? Seeing none, would you please vote? The introduction of 06-2022 ordinance has been introduced. Next item on our agenda is the adoption of ordinance, ordinance 04-2022. And I have a big note on here to call upon Vicki after she gets done reading it. So if I forget, remind me.
Okay. Section 3.1, City Charter, states the City of Battle Creek shall constitute 5 wards. Wards shall be established by the City Commission, including all city territory containing as near equal population in each ward as is practical, and which contain contiguous and compact areas not less than 90 days prior to the regular city election, and shall remain as established until such time as the population estimates for any of the 5 wards based upon the latest federal decennial census or any special census discloses an imbalance of more than 10%. The 2020 census disclosed an imbalance of more than 10% in Wards 3 and Ward 4. Therefore, it was necessary to redraw the boundaries to reestablish balance amongst the 5 wards. This ordinance, introduced on March 1st, 2022, amends Part 2, Title 2, Chapter 206 of the Battle Creek Code of Ordinances to modify the boundaries of Precinct 1, 2, 3, 8, and 18, and to adopt the City of Battle Creek Precinct Ward Map 2022 with the 5 wards.
Move for the approval of Resolution 331.
Support.
Been moved and supported to adopt Resolution 331. Vicki, could you please give us some further updates on this at this time?
Yep. So what I'm showing here that's circled is Lakeshore Drive that runs along Gogwak Lake. And we found out while we were trying to update the street index that we have to send to the Bureau once this ordinance is adopted, we discovered that when the county did their reapportioning, there was incorrect data that was on the U.S. Census website, and they were not aware of that. So when they did this, their map shows that this section is actually in Precinct 5, but it's actually in Precinct 3. It has been since our maps in 1983, and also the map from the township in 1974. So we're not really sure why the Census Bureau doesn't have the correct information. In this instance, it does not impact our wards because Precinct 3 and Precinct 5 are in the same ward. But we did want you to know that this is something that the Election Commission may have to meet to change if the county is not able to change their maps that they recently adopted. They're speaking with their attorney to find out if they can do an addendum to their map, but if they can't, then our Election Commission will make this change. It does require that those voters travel a little farther to the polling location, but at the same time, if we left it the way it is, what it would cause is a split ballot in Precinct 3. They would land in both County Commission District 1 and County Commission District 3. So we would have to order an additional ballot that was printed a little bit differently for those few voters. So that would be a cost to the county. And then for the city, there would be an additional $500 per election cost for programming cost. And that's why we would go ahead and do that.
Okay, now that we have that on the record, we'll go to public comment on the adoption of Ordinance 331. It's actually Ordinance 04-2022, Resolution 331. Is there any public comment at this time? All right, any commission comment? Commission Vice Mayor?
Vicki, approximately how many residents would be affected by that?
There's about 80.
80, okay, thank you.
Any other commission comments at this time? Seeing none, would you please vote on 331 Resolution Ordinance 04-2022? The option of Ordinance Resolution 331, Ordinance 04-2022 has been approved. Thank you, Vicki, for all your due diligence and understanding of that.
You're welcome.
Next item on our agenda is public comment regarding consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda. You'll be limited to 3 minutes per individual. Please allow me to read some instructions here. If you'd like to make public comment regarding the consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you to come forward to the podium. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. Please state your name and address before giving your comments so that in the event that we need to get back to you, we can get back to you. Is there any public comment regarding consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda? John Kennefick, I see your hand up.
John Kinnivick, 234 South Avenue. I can't remember whenever you've gotten back with me with anything I've had to say, except when I called the city ahead of time. I'm going to be talking about Resolution 342. It's going to be purchasing 2 properties on Helmer Road. If you know where the Goodwill is across from Myers on Helmer Road, then there's a theater complex there, and then right next to that there's a building. Behind that building and on the side of that building on the south side is the property that's proposed to be purchased by the government of Battle Creek. The cost of those 2 vacant lots is $250,000. What is not explained except in the backup material, it's going to cost approximately $1,500,000 to put a building, a city government building on that, and an additional $300,000 to pave that area. So we're looking at over $2,050,000. It is said in the backup material too that they've been using the salt or locating the salt on the Doliver place across from the Federal Center. Well, prior to that, they were using it on River Road where they would store their salt. So even though you're really not solving a problem, you're just relocating it and spending the city taxpayer dollars. That was one thing that I wanted to talk about. Finally is 345. You're going to do another study with the police and firemen. I was just kind of curious. The cost there is $128,917. And it just puzzled me that not too long in the past, you paid for a study from the Disney Corporation so that the firemen and policemen could have Disney personalities in the city of Battle Creek instead of down in Florida. I'm just kind of curious how much that money was spent for Disney, and is this really a necessary expense? Thank you.
Thank you, John. Are there any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to commission comment regarding meeting business.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Support.
Then moved and supported to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on the consent agenda? Consent agenda has been approved, and I know that there's quite a few people that are very appreciative of that because our resolution number 339 dealing with, not that one, the Board of Review, 337, we needed these people to serve on the Board of Review. So I know that someone's relieved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 340. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
This is a resolution seeking to approve a special use permit to allow for a new home for the aged at 300 Country Pine Lane in a T3 neighborhood commercial district pursuant to Section 1281.05 Special Land Uses of the Zoning Code. The applicant intends to convert an existing office space within the subject building into a new assisted senior living facility fitting the definition of a home for the aged. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this matter at its February 23, 2022 meeting, and after due consideration, recommended that the Battle Creek City Commission approve the petition for a special use permit with the conditions set forth in this resolution.
Move for the approval of Resolution 340.
Support.
So moved and supported to approve Resolution 340. Are there any commission comments at this time? Are there any commission comments? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 340? Resolution 340 has been approved, and Dr. Rouhani, congratulations. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 341. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
This is a resolution seeking to approve a special use permit to allow for an adult-use marijuana retail establishment located at 665 Capitol Avenue Southwest, Zone T3 Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District pursuant to Chapter 1240, Section 1240.13, and Chapter 1251, Sections 1251.23, .24, and .26. The subject site is a total of 4,248 square feet of a portion of the existing building at 661 Capitol Avenue Southwest. This portion of the existing building at 661 Capitol Avenue Southwest had been initially approved for a marijuana facility a few years ago, and Green Buddha is now applying for this special use to allow an adult-use marijuana retail establishment facility in the 665 Capitol Avenue Southwest address section of this building. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this matter at its February 23, 2022 meeting, and after due consideration, recommended that the Battle Creek City Commission approve the petition for a special use permit based upon the findings and conditions set forth in the resolution.
Move for the approval of Resolution 341.
Support.
So moved and supported to approve Resolution 341. Are there any commission comments or questions at this time? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 341? Resolution 341 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 342. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
This is a resolution seeking to approve a special use permit to allow for a new transportation and logistics warehouse facility for the storage of the city's seasonal salt supply and associated winter road maintenance equipment for property located on Helmer Road, Zone B1, Corridor Commercial District pursuant to Section 1281.05 of the Zoning Code. The Department of Public Works is proposing a phased development of the proposed project. The most immediate need is for a 16,000 square foot cold storage building to house the city's seasonal salt supply. Future phases of the development include an additional 4,000 square foot building and a 7,200 square foot building. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this matter at its February 23, 2022 meeting, and after due consideration recommended that this Battle Creek City Commission approve the petition for a special use permit based upon the findings and considerations set forth in the resolution.
I move for the approval of Resolution 342.
Support.
So moved and supported to approve Resolution 342. Are there any commission questions or comments at this time? Commissioner Blood.
Yep. Is there anyone here from the city to answer questions that I could direct them to, or should I just put them out there?
Our city manager's here.
Yes, I can help you, and of course, our DPW Director, Carl Fetters, is here as well, and I think Carl can probably address questions.
Okay. So, currently, what is the cost or the fee with having it not located where we want to put it? What does that look like that it's costing us per year?
So it's not centrally located, so the report is a little bit incorrect in that our salt storage is still at River Road. So
Okay.
River Road's on the west side of the city, so operationally it's not ideal for us. The other thing that happens is because of our limited ability to store a season's worth of salt, we're only able to take a certain amount of salt. So during the winter, we'll have seasonal loads come in. We do cooperative buying with the state, so we're kind of at the mercy. And usually there's a difference in price between upfront seasonal cost or upfront salt cost and seasonal delivery cost. So to quantify that would be tough. This is more of a project to make room for other uses at the wastewater treatment plant and actually get a facility that is designed to store salt.
Okay. And this facility will also, because there's a couple phases to it, there will also be a phase for cold storage, and there would be a workspace and building. Can you talk about what that would look like when we get to phase 2 and phase 3, and what those would be utilized for?
Yep, so the way that we intend on moving forward, if we were successful in getting our special use permit, the property would be purchased, and we would go out to bid, or we'd finish our site plan. So phase 1, the most immediate need is the salt barn. Currently we have cold storage at the Dolliver building, along with an area for our signs and signals group to work, and they've kind of been transient throughout the city for the last 5 years. They've moved from place to place, and we're looking to get them a more permanent home. Those are phase 2 and 3, so until we're asked to leave Dolliver, and I know that the city has larger plans than for us just to occupy space there, we'll need a space. And so depending on how bids come in for that construction, we'll either push phase 2 and 3 along with phase 1, or we'll hold back and wait until funds are available.
And that cold storage, I'm just asking because I am not familiar with salting and all of that jazz. Just drive on the roads, I don't salt them. Is that cold storage, just salt going to cold storage, or what are we storing in those spaces?
So, it's a good question, because cold storage to us is just basically a building that is out of the elements. So we store mowers in the wintertime we store mowers, in the summertime we store our snowplow equipment and that sort of thing. So it's just a building that has really no HVAC system in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we do that right now at the Dolliver, and that's where some of our folks are also working from, and storage is happening. We're hoping to centralize that in one location.
That's correct.
Okay, and having this location, we anticipate getting better pricing on salt, because we'll have a space in which to put a quantity that we won't have to necessarily pay a seasonal charge, which is usually higher because everyone needs it in the season.
Yeah, it fluctuates, and so it's like any commodity. Mm-hmm. So it's, when it's not always cheaper to do it seasonally, mm-hmm. but now this gives us the ability to do it that way, is what I would just correct that statement.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. And so with the project costs, sometimes this is something I look at myself, and I'm not sure when we cost projects out, what will be the timeline on return on that investment, or when will we see that, like, hey, 3 years from now, this will have saved us and paid for itself?
I'm not sure we've gone through that calculation because it's more of an immediate need of space more than anything. I'm not sure how we would calculate that other than wasted time driving back and forth from River Road. Obviously we dispatch our snowplows from the DPW yard, mm-hmm. And they make, through the course of a 16-hour day, they may go get salt half a dozen times or more. So you can, with gas prices the way they are, it'll be a return on investment a little bit quicker. So
okay.
I don't know if I could quantify that very
That's
easily.
fine, thank you. And then the last question is just, how did we engage with, and how was the response with neighbors to that area? I know when we had first started talking about that, that was one thing I wanted to follow up on, was how the neighbors in that area might respond. So
following our approval to kind of go forward with the project, we had our field service superintendent do door-to-door site visits and phone calls initially. Following that, we kind of engaged an architect and engineer to kind of help us move along. We sent letters to 271 properties that are kind of close to maybe a half-mile radius of the area. Mm-hmm. We included an FAQ on our website and 2 editions ago of BC Works that went out to everyone in the city. And along with the special use permit, the planning department noticed, I don't know how far, 300-foot buffer. So all of those efforts yielded really no concerns. We did also engage Lakeview Public Schools superintendent. He was in favor of the project, but he's no longer the superintendent there. So.
Okay. That's fantastic. I'm so glad that there was that outreach, and I'm glad to hear that you have not heard any complaints or pushback. That helps. So thank you so much in answering all my questions.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mayor? Mayor?
Are there,
Mayor?
yes.
I wanted to just add something that maybe people that are watching might be a little confused about this, to put this into perspective. So I think it was late May, we got the approval from the commission for the city to purchase this lot. And so we entered into an option agreement at that time because it was contingent on, for one, being able to get the special use permit. And that process, because of COVID and quorum problems, has taken longer than was anticipated. So that's all that is before the commission tonight, is this special use permit. And so then if this is granted, then we would go forward with exercising the option, doing some other due diligence on the property. And so it's strictly for the special use permit tonight, and it's not authorization for a building contract or anything like that. So I thought that might just be helpful because of the length of time.
Thank you very much, City Attorney.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on 342?
I didn't get one.
Commissioner Blood?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 342 has been approved. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 343. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
This is a resolution seeking acceptance of the lowest responsible bid for 2022 lead service line replacement project from Hunter Pearl Company in an estimated amount of $474,550 with unit prices prevailing. This project consists of the replacement of lead service lines for the city of Battle Creek. The resolution authorizes the city manager or her designee to approve change orders for up to 5% in aggregate for city-initiated and pre-approved changes for unforeseen field conditions that are not itemized in the contract.
Move for the approval of Resolution 343.
Support.
So moved and supported to approve Resolution 343. Are there any comments or questions by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on 343? Resolution 343 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 344. Madam Clerk?
In October of 2018, Battle Dog LLC purchased the property located at 64 West Michigan from Battle Creek Unlimited in order to renovate it and open a New Holland brewery, restaurant, brewery in downtown Battle Creek. AT&T Michigan seeks to perform utility upgrades to serve 56, 62, and 64 West Michigan Avenue. This resolution authorizes the city manager to grant AT&T Michigan an easement in, under, over, and upon city-owned property identified as parcel number 52-0610-48-668-0 to place communication, video, and/or information facilities including, but not limited to, conduits, cables, wires, serving terminals, hand poles, and other below-ground cable or wire enclosures, and other related or useful equipment, fixtures, appurtenances, and facilities to serve 56, 62, and 64 West Michigan.
Move for the approval of Resolution 344.
Support.
So moved and supported to approve Resolution 344. Are there any commission comments or questions at this time? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 344? Resolution 344 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is our final resolution of the evening, Resolution 345. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
This resolution, if approved, will accept the proposal of best value for conducting an analysis of our local EMS, police department, and fire department service delivery models from Center for Public Safety Management, LLC, in an all-inclusive, not-to-exceed amount of $128,917. The challenges of staffing shortages, budget shortfalls, and changes in calls for service have necessitated both an evaluation of our current service delivery models and recommendations for possible alternatives. CPSM has the breadth and depth of experience needed to complete the analysis with established expertise in measurement and benchmarking unique communities like Battle Creek. In particular, their staff includes former EMS, police, and fire personnel. With approval of this resolution, the city manager or her designee may also execute change orders up to 10% in aggregate for city-initiated and pre-approved changes in scope.
Move for the adoption of Resolution 345.
Support.
Been moved and supported to approve Resolution 345. Are there any questions from the commission? Commissioner Wilson.
I'm curious how frequently these assessments or analysis are done. Is it just based on need, or is there like every 10 years we conduct something like this?
Yeah, Commissioner, I wouldn't say there was a regular cadence for these analysis. It really is based on conditions and needs.
Okay.
We have done this a couple of times over the past couple of decades. There hasn't been a lot in the way of significant change as a result of those studies in the past. But again, based on some of the rationale that you heard as Vicki was introducing this resolution, we think the timing and need is right to do it again.
Okay. And the intent or hope then will be that what would result would be efficiencies to the system, and optimization of what we have?
Yeah, that certainly could be part of it. There are a number of scope items in this analysis that range from, determining appropriate workloads, staffing levels, management structure, a review of organizational structure and culture, and some community engagement too, to determine essentially the nature of the relationship between our emergency services, police and fire, and the community. So there are a number of scope items that could potentially lead to a variety of different outcomes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other commission questions or comments? I have just one. I would like to make a mention that I very much support this resolution, but I also like to see some type of study performed on having the EMS service brought in-house and increase the efficiencies when it comes to ambulance service to the citizens of our community. If that is going to need a change order, I'm sure we can bring it forth at a later date, but I would like to see that study and see if it's really going to be more efficient than the current service. Are there any other comments or questions? Yes, Commissioner Blood.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to, I know Rebecca's not here, so I'm just going to lift her up and say I really appreciated, and this is for anybody who wants to check online, the additional memo she put with this. It helped me understand some of those conditions and circumstances behind of why we're doing this. And I would concur with you, sir, that there have been some challenges to our residents here with EMS services, and I would also like to see how we can improve that for our residents, just based on the contractual goals that we're still struggling to meet. So I look forward to this outcome and hearing what's presented. So thank you, staff, for thinking about this and helping think outside the box, I guess, to move us forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission? City Manager, please.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could just add too, I do believe the scope of this analysis would include what you're thinking in terms of an analysis of EMS services and how we handle those. So it doesn't necessarily mean that a change would be recommended, but I do believe alternatives will be looked at within the scope of this contract.
Thank you very much. Any other commission comments or questions?
I just have one
Commissioner
question.
Wilson.
Yeah, and I may have missed this in the report, because there's 50 pages in here for the from the contractor. What is the typical time length for study of this?
That is a good question, Commissioner. I don't know, Chief Sturdivant or Deputy Chief, or maybe even our purchasing manager could answer that question.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that timeline is going to be fluid because we don't know what we don't know. And until they come in and begin peeling back, for lack of a better word, the layers of the onion,
Yeah.
it could take considerably longer than that. I think that's going to be written and built into some of the contract language. But with an analysis such as this, it's very hard to come up with a definitive timeline because we just don't know exactly all of the moving parts to what the process is going to entail. They have, and we will look to hold them accountable to a projected timeline, but we also have to be flexible with what that actually will look like.
And if I may add, we met diligently with these companies to go over what they could produce for us, and CPSM just stood out from the rest. We're very excited to understand and see what they have for us. We are under some significant challenges right now, so we need to understand is the forces that we have now, where that's at, and where we need to be in the future, along with what deployment strategies we should be looking at.
Thank you very much. Any other questions of the chief and the, I'm sorry, are you the deputy chief?
Deputy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I believe we're prepared to vote. Please vote on Resolution 345. Resolution 345 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is general public comment. These are limited to 3 minutes per individual. If you'd like to make regarding general public comment, regarding matters over which the City Commission has control, please raise your hand and wait for the mayor to acknowledge you and then come forward to the podium. You will have 3 minutes to make your comment. Please state your name and address prior to the beginning of your comment. Are there any public comments at this time? John?
John Kennefic, 234 South Avenue. When Linda Morris gives her presentation, I always kind of listen carefully. And there are things that she's talking about in her budget. I always talk about the fact that the city government charges income tax on the food the citizens eat. Last year when you filled out your income tax, on line 16 of the city form, you would know that it's $750 per person to feed one person in the city of Battle Creek. They don't do this mathematically. The state government does do it mathematically, and last year it was $4,750 per person. That simply means that the citizens of Battle Creek were taxed $2,400,000 last year of income coming into the city of Battle Creek. This year, when you fill out your taxes for 2021, since the cost of food went up, and this appears on line 9 of the State 1040, you would know that the costs, and it went up, the city government will take in an additional $90,000, so it'll be $2,490,000, $90,000 more than it was the year before. So now we know we can purchase our building on Helmer, can't we? A couple of things that I found to be interesting. Last commission meeting, you spent or authorized just under $8 million for a lot of nonprofits. And I thought it was ironic that the federal government was having budget concerns, and we're talking about shutting down the federal government because it's one of those, we don't have the money, but don't worry, we'll give you more cost increases. I thought that was kind of interesting. And the other thing, too, was that I don't have problems to some extent with nonprofits, provided they are reasonably self-sufficient. In 2014 was the 50th anniversary on Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty. And what was discovered after incredible sums of federal dollars were applied during that 50-year period, after 50 years there were more people in poverty than before the project actually begun. Now, the Congress of the United States and the President of the United States came up with a solution to this problem. It was very simple. They raised fuel oil costs, particularly with diesel trains and trucks for moving product, and everyone's cost went up. They didn't really solve a problem, since after the 50 years it basically proved that on the war of poverty, poverty won, but they didn't want to address the problem. A lot of things are always good, but will they stand up? And according to most things, we are getting deeper and deeper in debt, our federal government, and the games played by state, county, and city governments, specifically with interest rates and things of that nature. Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, any commission comments? Commissioner Blood.
Thank you, sir. I am so glad that we were able to do the proclamation for March for Meals. And one of the things I love about living in Michigan, where I moved from in Arizona, is Michigan is such a wonderful place to grow things. You can actually grow things from the dirt, which is amazing. And one of the things that we offer here in Calhoun County is something called Senior Project Fresh or Market Fresh. And so anybody who's watching at home, because I know there's not a lot of people here, start thinking about, if you are over the age of 60, about Senior Project Fresh. That is going to be coming up here in May, so you want to apply for those soon. And that will help you network with local farmers markets, to get more fresh food, fruits and vegetables that were grown locally on your plate at home. And so that is something I would encourage all seniors to participate in if they're able.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you for attending.